continue our knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world and are thrilled to have Alex with us today. Alex, tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Aon.
Well, I have the huge privilege of being CMO for part of the business that works with insurance companies, which is an absolutely fascinating industry. And it's all about how do we bring more solutions to communities, to families, to businesses across the world to really create a more resilient environment. And that's what I love about this sector. It's around how do we use marketing and communications to bring new insights to insurance companies that are really going to help them better manage their risks and be successful in doing that to better help their customers.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into marketing.
Well, I've always known I wanted to do something that was really, really creative. So from about the age of 13 and 14, I was out there getting work experience, local TV companies or now local newspapers, working in advertising agencies. And I love the idea of being creative, whether that was through the writing, bringing people together, experimenting in new different ways of working as well. And slowly as the years went on, I think I began to find my niche more around the PR area. And that really gave me groundings on like how do you bring a good strategy together? How do you really think around what you're trying to achieve, who your audiences are, what those messages are, before you even get stuck into the even more exciting bit, which is looking at the tactics and bringing those campaigns to life. And I've always been hugely grateful for my time at working in PR. And when I moved into marketing, it was really thinking around how do you drive everything from a really, really compelling story and making sure everything flows beautifully from that point.
What is your main marketing focus at the moment?
Catastrophes. So one of the biggest risks to insurance companies is natural disasters, especially with the changing climate. And obviously, if we think about the impact on people, it's an absolutely critical role that our industry plays. I mean, we've just seen this year alone devastating wildfires in California, a number of losses in Myanmar following the earthquake. So really awful events, and we need to think as a society, how do we best manage those? So insurance companies help to provide that capital, but also think about ways to try and mitigate some of those risks at the same time. So that's where we're really partnering with our insurer clients to help them think of new tactics and ways of doing that. So that might be catastrophe models. So using innovative technology to understand how frequently or how severe a particular peril might be, understanding what the impact of climate is on those as well. That's the other really interesting piece too. But also thinking where do we invest going forward? Is it always reacting after an event, or what can we do in advance, particularly around like building better to begin with to prevent buildings, for example, collapsing quite so impactfully after an earthquake?
How do you define success in marketing?
First of all, you've got to enjoy what you do. I think that's the most important thing. And for me personally, success is about bringing a brilliant team together, being able to deliver for the business, understanding like what we need to achieve as Aon to achieve our growth goals, but also putting things from the perspective of our clients. And it's getting that take up and that engagement for me, which is really, really important. But then also how do we link that engagement for clients, knowing that we're providing insights that are useful? How do we then link that back to how we protect our revenue and also how we drive our pipeline going forward?
What would you say is the biggest challenge marketers face today?
It's got to be around how we prove our ROI. We do some amazing work as a marketing communications profession, and the impact can be really, really visible sometimes. But how do you actually put that into tangible numbers? And I think as we crack that, or as just individual companies, but as an entire profession, as an industry, I think that will help to really further increase the value value of our role and that strategic seat at the table.
Which marketing strategies have wielded the most success in terms of engagement and lead generation?
So I think it's really important to use a range of tactics in every campaign and think around what you can effectively measure for each of those different channels. What I've particularly enjoyed, when I think back to starting sort of 20, 25 years ago in this industry, getting my press cuttings through by fax every morning, that's great, but how do you measure? And how do you track and benchmark? So I absolutely love working with social media at the moment, just for those like real-time response, the stats to actually prove the impact that you're having. And also we see a huge engagement through, for example, our thought leadership and being able to really drive those conversations. So whether we're looking at what's changing in the reinsurance world, what are those market dynamics, but also providing data around catastrophes, for example, being one of those key risks, taking advantage of this wealth of data that we have in the business. We always find that helps to really better engage with our clients.
Can you give us an idea of who your ICP is at Aon?
Well, we have several. So it's very easy to say we target insurance companies, but the really interesting thing is how do we really try and break that down? And how do we prioritize within that as well? So one of our primary target personas has been the reinsurance buyer. But as we build more strategic relationships with the business, we really want to elevate that to more of a C-suite level, particularly around CEO, because yes, we can definitely provide fantastic reinsurance programs that will help to protect the balance sheets of our customers. But actually, we want to try and think more strategically. It's not just about protection, but how do you grow your business at the same time? So we're really working with the C-suite who can have a more holistic look. So we can support across every aspect of their business. And that might range from how do they manage a cyber attack, because of the amount of huge personal information that a company might have, right through to how do they manage their talent going forward. And again, thinking about those key job profiles, but also looking at different segments. So we will work with the world's largest insurance companies, but equally, we're also targeting smaller regional insurance companies, like particularly in the US at the moment, where not only are they facing risks such as hurricanes, tornadoes, but also increased litigation across the country, and of course the threats that we're seeing across the news at the moment.
Now, I'd like to ask you some questions regarding events. And my first question is, what's the most successful event or engagement piece you've hosted and why?
So for the last 5 years, we've hosted Aon's reinsurance renewal season. And what I love about this event is that it's actually a series of global roadshows of industry conferences that we do, but we also complement them with virtual sessions. So how this works is that wherever you are in the world, and that could be from the US through to Singapore via Monte Carlo, at those industry conferences, we want to bring a consistent and premium experience to all our clients. And we do that by having a consistent message, but really investing in the branding and the way that we try and bring that experience to life, for example, with our Better Decisions labs, where we can really help showcase what's new and innovative in the industry in relation to those needs of our clients. But what has also worked really well, because not everyone could be at those conferences, we've also hosted alongside that a series of fireside chats. And that's really giving an opportunity for our clients across the world to get access to some of our senior leaders, but also their peers across the industry, to really get their perspectives on some of the challenges that they're facing today, and more importantly, some of the strategies that they're using to overcome those challenges.
What are the most significant challenges you face when hosting events?
Probably the biggest challenge is that events bring a huge amount of opportunities, but it doesn't necessarily mean your budget is increasing in correlation to that. So it's always how do you deliver more on the same or less budget? So always thinking about how you can be innovative, what your clients are really going to try to truly appreciate, and how you do that within those constraints of the budget.
What career advice would you give to anyone starting in the marketing industry?
Be connected to everyone in the business. That's one of the really exciting foundations, is build up your network, understand as much as possible, and that will really allow you to be the connector. And what I think is so important about that is that it can be quite easy as a marketing function to be drawn into silos. So today we're working with this team, or we're working on this product next day. If you can step back and look holistically across the business and then try and imagine those solutions in response to what your clients actually need, you will not only deliver better insights and solutions for your clients, but it also helps you to bring together a more connected business to deliver those solutions.
What do you believe is the biggest opportunity for CMOs today that might not have been available in the past?
Data has to be at the crux of that, and also AI. I do think that there are foundations of marketing which will always remain true, thinking about your business priorities, putting your customer first, but using this data to improve on what we do is an extraordinary opportunity. So whether that's how your campaigns are performing, for example, how you're engaging with the media, how also you're engaging with your own colleagues as well. How do you bring more insights to them? Data has to be almost like an integrated day-to-day part of the role, but also how do we match that with AI to help us tease out further tactics on the results of those learnings.
What does the future of marketing look like?
Again, I think it probably comes back to data and AI, and also having a more integrated role into the running of the business, making sure that CRMs are truly an integral part of running a company, and continuing to have I would say an influence at board level in terms of how do we effectively engage with our clients and continue to bring them relevant products at the right time.
How would you describe the role of the CMO in one word, and why?
I'm going to go for empowering. And that's something that I love about my job, is what lies ahead and how you can have an impact on changing that. And that's just not about the impact you can have within the business to help continue to grow that, but it's also around what you can deliver to your customers, how you can bring something new to clients, how you can help advise them more effectively by bringing that right content to them, and then also particularly working with this exciting dynamic insurance industry, how we can ultimately help to enhance and enrich lives around the world and our communities, and working with governments and businesses alike.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much for taking part in the series.